as discussed in the last video, this is basically me just going to go through, see if there's any potential on the market. It's not really something I've done before, but you know, I do it quite often, not on YouTube, so let's just see how this goes. My first port of call is the national team cards. The reason for that is they're highly collectible, they're the best players in the world, and they've minted quite a lot of them, so I'm thinking, you know, if they slow down on the minting, you know, there'll be more likelihood that the prices go up. And the kind of secret thing I'm thinking about is, when will these cards be minted again? Because the one thing that delays cards is the fact that they can't get photos for them. So when are they going to do the national cards like photos for the next season? It's not something I have knowledge of, but you know, it's guaranteed to get photos for the Premier League done at the start of the Premier League. So, you know, maybe national cards will be later release, and therefore if they do perform early in the season, you get more reward for them. But anyway, let's get into it here. So current national team, we have Belgium, France, and Germany. So I did say before that my main aim is the under-23s league, so I'm going to also add an age restriction. And then you get 3 of the obvious big hitters. I like, as much as possible, buying signings from the new signings area, because it means you've got the fairest price, basically. A lot of the buy now is kind of, you're paying a bit of convenience fee. So just be aware of that going forward. I really like Kai Havertz, right? Because he's 22 at the moment. I know his card says 21, but he's 22, so you still get 2 seasons. And I just thought he played so well in the World Cup. But I've actually done this, and I've looked into his stats. And I wasn't actually too impressed. It's not really something I do too frequently, but here it is. It's actually looking at, so I like the last 40 average. I think that shows a player's kind of ultimate goal. But for Kai, I feel that it's kind of more accurate to look at his last 5 scores. Maybe last 10 would probably be the most accurate, because that's when he's getting more game time, you say, as you look at someone that hasn't. But yeah, it's only recently he's came into the fray. And I was really interested in him. He's so collectible. Any Chelsea fans are going to want him. He's going to be one of the best players in the world. But, you know, for me, it's still about how do they score. Collectability is a second thought. So looking at it, even in his last 5, when he actually was playing really well, scored an average of 56, which is what you're kind of looking for, really, for a top-end card. His AA5, which is the non-decisive score, so it's just how you play generally, was actually only a 5. And, you know, in these cards, I'm looking for someone like Alphonso Davies that gets 17.4, kind of regardless of whether he gets a decisive action. The decisive action obviously being a goal and assist. Don't think clean sheet comes into it, but it might do. I need to check that. But overall, you know, it's kind of thrown me off, Kai. So I'll go into the spreadsheet, which I mentioned in the last video, that, you know, anyone wants it, if you subscribe, you know, comment on the channel, I'll send it over to you, either by email, or if you message me on Discord, it's probably a lot easier. So what I've just done is filtered by the last 40 game average, got the prices, and let's just see who sticks out. So firstly, we have Joey Veerman. You know, I'm not great with names, I just say them. I don't really care if you say them differently, to be honest. So great average, and unfortunately he's been linked with Rangers. So if you know me, that means that name is deleted. He will not be considered again. You know, a lot of these are just players I don't really know, but one key aspect that I'm actually trying to do is get someone that's available for both seasons. So I'm going to unselect 23, and we're going to look at the best players that will have at least 2 seasons. These here haven't played 40 games, so you know they're not guaranteed to start. If you know better information about it, for example, Trubin recently came into the side. If you are guaranteed, in your head, you think he's guaranteed to start, look, go for these. There's going to be a discount on them from people that don't have that knowledge. But going through it, we can see here, Ayo Tanaka is a great card, but he's looking at moving to the Bundesliga too, so he's gone. Noah Lang is getting a transfer. Guga is... he's been dropped recently, so it's not good. And Mbappe's far out of my price range, as is Alphonso Davies. And I was actually looking at getting Alphonso Davies, and it was one of the reasons I wanted an ETH balance. But he's recently just sold for 1.3, and I think before that his lowest was 0.899 obviously. And I was like, oh, that's such good value for him, that if I can just get up the ETH balance, he's so collectible. He has about 3 years left in the under-23s. He's going to absolutely pump scores in every weekend, and then someone went and offered 1.3, and changed the market completely. So I was probably never going to get him anyway, because even when I've sold one of my big players, I'm only at half an ETH. So let's continue down the list, see if anyone stands out. Someone like this Albert Maboya Logonga, butchered like I said, but overall he's got such good stats, and I don't hear anyone talking about him. He's got 2 years left, sorry, because I made this spreadsheet on the 1st of July when all the ages are updated, so you can see exactly when they are. Someone like Zaniolo is really good, but his birthday's on the 2nd of July, so it catches people out with how many years he's got left. And I also just want to say, I haven't done anything particularly special here. I copied and pasted it from Sorare data, did some filtering, made it a bit cleaner, and it's just how I like to use it. So I don't know anything about him. He plays in the Pro League, and the Pro League's one of my kind of weaknesses in terms of knowledge. So someone with good knowledge could take advantage of what could be a good value card if he's guaranteed to start and didn't have a world beater of a season. Donny Marlin, unreal player, but looking like he's going to Dortmund. Nemeka, I think he's already got his transfer. And then we're down to Jules. And if you know me, you'll know that I'm actually looking for a defender. So I am very interested in Jules. Let's pull up some stats on him. We'll get rid of Dovies, as he is now well out of the price range. Jules? Have I spelled that wrong? Kounde. There we go. So what I really like about him is in the last 40, he's played 90% of games, and that's basically 100. The only reason he hasn't is because he doesn't play for France yet. And obviously France have one of the best defences in the world, player by player. Obviously, they got beat by Switzerland in the Euros, but these things happen. So with a 57 average across 40 games, that is absolutely huge. That means you're putting up 60s. You know what, P? He's even got 99s, which surprised me for a centre-back. But overall, what I like is the scores recently have been lower than the average. So that means a couple of weeks back, his average was actually higher. So he'd be even higher up the list. Beyond that, he's a reasonable value, 55 of him, and he's part of those national team cards that, I'm a bit, when will they get reprinted? They haven't announced it. So, you hope it's, never really if you own one, and you hope it's immediately if you don't own one. But it's just slightly different. I kind of like Jules. So I am looking for a defender. If I pull up my spreadsheet, you'll see. Because in my squad, we got Hugo, who averages 45, and I only had him because I needed an under 21 Euro player, and Hugo was starting. So what I thought was a good time was buying those players, but then, only ended up playing 1 or 2 games. On reflection, it was a mistake. So when you are planning, make sure it's a lot of games. That was a knockout competition. I knew it was, but I was like, oh yeah, they'll obviously go through. Spain are brilliant and France are brilliant. And yeah, I wasted a bit of money and now I'm stuck. So long term, always think long term. But overall, he is a very expensive player, but he's also linked with going to Spurs. I've seen that constantly in the news this week. So, yeah, he's linked with Spurs. Apparently, he's waiting to see if he can get Champions League football. And even better than that is that's exactly what I want, because I doubt the Euro Conference would be covered because it's just quite lower league football. It could be, and if it is, he becomes an even more valuable player because obviously he'll be getting 5-0 every game. You'll get as many Spurs players as you can if he does go there. But I don't know, I'm kind of thinking it's a win-win if I was to pick him up, because sitting at Sevilla, then you kind of expect him to get 57 again. That's his 40-game average, maybe slightly up if he's improved. If he's going to Tottenham, I've looked at these stats in the past, I don't just know off my head, but they actually have the same clean sheet percentage as Sevilla. So it's like, they're basically equivalent teams. He's going to be playing the role in centre-back where he knocks the ball about a lot, gets a lot of tackles in, should be getting about similar points in that. And then he can only really do better if he gets a Champions League team. I'm thinking more in the Premier League here. Say he moves to Chelsea or Man United. In that respect, he'll get so much more collectability. So as soon as people join the platform, they're thinking, right, I want this player, I want that player. It's normally players that, are at their club. So I'm kind of thinking it's win-win if you do pick up Jules, because a transfer's good, saying his club's good, and you have that national team where they've just released 50 cards of him in a short space of time. Yes, they can release another 100 in a couple of weeks if they wanted to, but I'm not, like I said, I'm kind of feeling that they're not going to do that immediately. So he definitely added to the watch list. I will highlight him yellow. I think these two are Pro League players. Don't know a lot about them. Again, if you do, jump in. Someone like that one, Tommy. So yeah, he's substitute, doesn't really get guaranteed performances, hasn't played the last couple of games. Yeah, just someone I'd be avoiding. But it just shows how you can do it if you have your knowledge. Pedro Goncalves, he's a fantastic player. I believe he plays at Sporting, and he's about 23. Oh, is it because of his stupid? Or is it because I need to sign in? It's going to make me sign in. Like I was saying, Pedro Goncalves plays for Sporting, 23. Such a high prospect player. Most people are considering him the same as kind of Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, he's ripping apart the Premier League this season, or last season. So the scores kind of speak for themselves at this. But, you know, it's someone I'm avoiding because every club in the world is going to be looking at this kid and they're thinking, you know, joining the Premier League. And it's so much harder than the Portuguese league, that the step up could knock down the scores. And, you know, that's brilliant if you got, you know, enough ETH where you can just have a long-term prospect like that. But for me, I really need someone that's going to hit the ground running and get me some rewards this season, because, you know, I really need to start winning stuff really to become even more profitable. And as you go down the list, what could be important for you is just filtering by position. So let's say I get Jules as who I'm considering for a defender. Let's just go for midfielders now. So Arsene Zakarian, he plays at Zenit and he's only 18. Obviously, he hasn't played that many games yet, but he's putting up some fantastic scores for only £470. Who is it? Griezmann has his unique, I believe. And it's like, oh, if Griezmann has him, you think he's got good scores. He's definitely someone I would take a slightly more punty approach on when I don't have like full knowledge of the player. But definitely someone to consider. This Leon Fletch. Okay, no, I thought he had a good score. He didn't. It's just because someone recommended him to me. So Gedson Fernandes. So I think he's either on loan or signed permanently. Let's just check that. Gedson Fernandes. He had a great finish to the season because I wanted to pick him up for the Euro under-21s competition, and he just got so expensive because he's putting in like 90s and stuff. Either way, it looks like, yeah, so he was on loan from Benfica. Either way, he's at Benfica, so that's a change. He's probably similar standards, so I would consider getting him. The only reason put me off that is that he did have a season in the Premier League where he wasn't great. So, you know, that's one thing you've got to be aware of. Just looking down the looking down the list, someone like Declan Rice is obviously great. A lot of people will be after him, but he probably can't get him for that price because he's not actually on the game. He was on the game a year ago or 2 years ago, so it's all kind of rookie cards, and you know, people understand that, put a price on him. I saw he's actually Irish in that, which is quite funny because he obviously did the switch from Ireland to England and is now an England star at the Euros, but whatever. One guy I do know about and probably will try and pick up before the season starts is Mahali Kamara. So he plays for St Etienne and just really consistent scorer. I haven't actually watched him, to be honest, but you know, he scores so well that I think he just controls the game really well. Is my laptop just frozen? No. Okay. Kamara. Here we go. So one interesting thought about this is his national team. So he plays for France, which means he's not going to get in the team really. If you're not getting in it at 23, you're probably never going to get in it really. In a harsh kind of way, but you know, it's the game. They've got an unreal midfield, so you know that takes some utility out of the card. But you know, he is, if you consider his price compared to for 2 years left compared to, you know, the rest of them above him who are actually playing, so that's them. It's not too bad. It's not fantastic. You could get him for lower at some point because, you know, I was considering getting him, but overall, yeah, let's continue down the list, see if anyone else stands out. Gravenberch, I mean, this wise so expensive really, 1.1k, he's even further up there now, but yeah, 19, he's already putting in an average of 53, so that's what, 4 more seasons, going to be fantastic. And, you know, you don't have to just use these numbers, you know, you like make these manual adjustments in your head of what's his actual score going to be. Like for someone like me, Kai Havertz, like I said before, Yes, he averages like 43, but it's because he came off the bench last season against Chelsea for Lampard. Now that Thomas Tuchel's in charge, it's obviously going to change a bit. So, you know, overall. So, yeah, look, this was a new thing for me, just kind of thinking out loud, going through some of my own research, kind of my thought process. Let me know if it helps you. If like, I always find when someone slightly knowledgeable speaks about something aloud, you always pick up a gem of knowledge, and that's where you can really improve. So, yeah, if it helped, let me know. Otherwise, it looks like the big find of the day is going to be Jules Kounde from Sevilla. So we actually checked at the start, didn't we? He's got on bid, so I do have enough to get him. I do have enough. I'll consider making that bid, and that would be my last and only bid. The only problem is it used up my full ETH balance on one player, and I've never actually seen him play. I have seen Sevilla play, but I wasn't like watching, Jules on his own. Like, oh, is this kid any good? Where when you're looking at SO5 research, you're a bit like, I'll just watch this guy. Like, pass complete, brilliant, great tackle, brilliant. Like, it's a bit different. So I'll have a consider for that. Thanks for listening. Cheers. All the best. Thanks.